Hello, and welcome to How to Look Like a Rockstar on Your Thesis or Dissertation. This is episode 1, focusing on table of contents or navigation tables. A finished table of contents adds a lot of quality and usability to your thesis or dissertation. However, getting it set up perfectly correctly can be very frustrating. Add to that the fact that most theses and dissertations are going to have several navigation tables. For example, a single dissertation might have a table of contents, a list of tables, and a table of figures. So 3 navigation tables. So you've got to get them in there set up correctly so Word knows what information to put in each table. In this short video, I'll walk you through the steps to do that. We're going to create, label, and fill in navigation tables for your thesis or dissertation. Specifically, I'm using Word 2013, APA formatting, and Murray State University thesis formatting guidelines. But these directions can be adapted to several earlier versions of Word without really any changes, and other formatting guidelines without much fuss. So let's begin. I've got a thesis kind of outline pulled up here, and you'll see after the acknowledgments we need to insert our table of contents. Now, this process will be a lot easier if you turn on your hidden formatting characters. To do that, you push Control-Shift-8. Control-Shift-8 will show or hide the formatting characters. So I'm going to put my cursor right after my APA first level heading, Table of Contents, and click on References, Table of Contents, and then Custom Table of Contents. And it'll bring up the initial table of contents box. There's a couple things we need to change in here. The first thing, uncheck the box that says use hyperlinks instead of page numbers. We wanted to use page numbers. Next, click on Options, and we're going to uncheck Styles and uncheck Outline Levels and check Table Entry Fields. Now I do that specifically for theses and dissertations because generally the actual title of your chapter and what you put in the table of contents are just a little bit different. For example, we usually advise students to call chapter 1 within the document. We call it chapter 1 introduction. But in your table of contents, we call it 1.space introduction. So it's a little bit different than what's in the text, and so we need to manually use the table entry fields rather than the styles. So make sure nothing is checked except table entry fields. Click OK. And then we go to Modify. And we need to set all the first three table of contents levels to match your body font. My default body font, I tell all my students to put in Times New Roman 12. So I want my first 3 levels to be Times New Roman 12. If they're not, you can highlight them and then just click Modify. It brings up a font dialog box. Change the font, change the size. Click OK, and brings it back to that box. So we've got all 3 set to Times New Roman 12, and click OK, and then click OK. And it'll insert a blank table of contents. We haven't marked any entries yet, so of course it's just a blank line. Before we can mark our table of contents entries, we need to tell Word what to call this table, because this is our first navigation table. We'll have 2 more within this document. We'll also have a list of tables and a table of figures. So we need to designate these and keep them straight right from the start. To do that, we need to show the field codes behind this table of contents. To show the field codes, you're going to click on that No Table of Contents Entries line found line, and click Alt and then key F9. Alt plus F9, and that brings up this little voodoo and witchcraft line. It says, it's bracketed, and it says bracket space TOC space \F space bracket. Okay, within that bracket, that's the codes that tells the Word specifically what to do with this table of contents. The one code we need to worry about here is the \F. The \F precedes the title that we're going to call this table. So for this table, since it's a table of contents, I like to call this C. So it's going to be \F space capital C. That tells the program that everything marked with the C, like I'll show you in a second, needs to go into this table. So let's just practice one. Let's scroll down to the first thing we want in our table of contents, which ironically enough is the list of tables. So we're going to highlight it, highlight the text we want to put in the table of contents, and then push Alt, Shift, and the letter O. That brings up the table of contents marking box. This tells it what to put in the table of contents. So the first line says entry. This is the text that'll show up in your table of contents. So it says list of tables. It takes the text though and the formatting. So in this box it's bold. I don't want it bold. So I'll do Control B and that'll make it plain face. Now up above a moment ago when we named the table C, that is in relation to this right here. We want to have this say C in level 1. This is a first level heading. If it was a second level heading, we'd call it of course level 2. Then click Mark. And let's go down and do another one. Our table of figures will be next. I'm going to highlight it, do Alt, Shift, the letter O. I want that plain face, so I'm going to do Control B. It's going in table C, level 1, Mark. And let's do one more, because here's where it gets a little trickier. We don't want our table of contents to say Chapter 1, Introduction. We just want it to say 1, Introduction. So I'm going to highlight Introduction and click Alt Shift and letter O. I'll make that plain face, but I want it to say 1 period space space introduction. So I can type that in the box just like I want it to show in the table of contents. It's a first level, goes to table C. There you go. So let's scroll up to our table of contents and see the beauty. And it hasn't updated yet. So right click on it and do Update Field. Okay, now we need to hide the field codes. To do that, it's the same as showing them, and that's Alt and F9. And there you have it. Those are the 3 things we've tagged and the page numbers. Now this is great because as you work through your final edits, your committee will no doubt have you maybe add pages, change pages, move sections around, and you won't have to manually update all of these page numbers. You can just right click on the table, do Update Field, and then either update just the page numbers or the entire table, and Word will do it for you. It seems like a little work to put it in right now, but after you're finished, after you get your final edits, you will be glad you did it. Okay, so there's our table of contents. You then need to go through the rest of your document, and of course, mark the rest of your headings. But let's move on to our next navigation table, and that's our list of tables. Down here, this is where you want to put the list of tables. So I'll go to References, Table of Contents, Custom. And then I uncheck Hyperlinks. Options will do Not Styles, Not on Outline Levels, but we do want to check mark in Table Entry Fields. Click OK. Modify, we want levels 1, 2, and 3 to be Times New Roman 12, and they are. And then click OK. And you'll see it brought in our earlier table of contents. So we need to tell it to call this list of tables something different. I always call my list of tables A, just because phonetically it makes sense to me. So I'm going to do Alt F9. That'll bring up the field code. And after the F, I'm going to do a space, and then I'm going to do capital A. So it's bracket space TOC space backslash F space A close brackets. Then I'll do Alt F9 to hide it. And then let's go down and let's mark some things A. So this is our list of tables. Let's find our first table. It's down here, table 1. So usually in the tables you put 1 period space space and then the name of your tables. So I'll highlight the name of my table. Then I'll do Alt Shift and the letter O. Okay, once again, like before, this brought in the formatting, and we don't want the formatting. It's italics, so I'm going to do a Control I to get rid of the italics. Then I'm going to go to the start of it, and I'm going to do, since it's table 1, I'll do 1 period space space, and then the name of my table. Then this is where we got to change to A, since it's the list of tables. We want that to be A, and it's a first level, and we'll mark it. Then let's go down to table 2. I'm going to highlight that. Highlight the table title, Alt, Shift, letter O. I'm going to make that plain face, so let's Control I, 2 period space space, change this to table A, and mark it, and then close. Alright, and if we did this right, this, when we update it, our list of tables should have our tables. I right-clicked on it, and then Update Field, Update Entire Table, and OK. And there you have it. Those are the titles of our tables, just like we want them. And then our final one is the table of figures. I will do this the exact same way. I went to where I want to put the navigation table. I'll do References, Table of Contents, Custom Table of Contents, uncheck Hyperlinks, click on Options, check Table Entry Fields, uncheck Styles and Outline Levels, click OK. Modify, make sure all 3 levels are set to times 0 and 12, click OK, and OK. And then that said, did you want to replace the existing table of contents? And I just said no. So we need to now tell Word what to call this, because it brought in the original table of contents that we'd called C. So we need to call this something different. So I'll do Alt, I'll click on it and then do Alt and F9. That brings up our field codes. And then, so after the F and the space, I'm going to type my letter to designate this specific table. The table of figures I like to call F. So it's bracket space TOC space \F space F close bracket. And then I'm going to do Alt F9 to hide that, and you'll see it's still the old table of contents stuff. Let's go down and mark some of our figures. So here's our first figure. This is another way to make your thesis or dissertation rock. Just include lots of pictures of adorable animals. So I'm going to highlight what I want to show up in the box. I want the number, period, space, space, and then the title of my figure. And then I'll do Alt Shift letter O. It'll come up. I've got the italics left from the figure caption, so I'm going to do Control I to get rid of that. Table identifier, it's a figure, so it needs to be F, level 1, mark, and then close it. You'll see it also puts the field codes there too when you tag them. Don't panic, they don't print, they don't show. If you want to hide them, you can do Alt or Control, Shift, and 8, and that'll hide them. Control, Shift, 8 will hide them. So let's go down to the next figure. I did another adorable picture of a goat. You're going to highlight the caption, Alt Shift letter O. Once again, the number's italic, so I'm going to do Control I to make it not italic. Change it to F for table of figures, level 1, mark. And then here's our final figure, a goat in a feed tub. There we go. Alt Shift letter O. And I missed the period, so I need to put the period in there, highlight it, make it not italic. This should be F, mark, close. Oh, and there's one more picture. Of course there's one more picture. I want this thesis to be good. I put in extra goat pictures. Then I'm going to highlight it, Alt Shift letter O, fix the italics, call it F for figures, level 1, mark, close. Alright, so if we did this right, we go back up to the table of figures. I'm going to right click on it, update field, update entire table. Bam! There you have it. Alright guys, there you have it. You have inserted a beautiful table of contents, list of tables, and table of figures. Now, remember the important shortcut keys we used. We used Alt and F9 to show the field codes for each navigation table. We used Alt, Shift, and the letter O to mark each table of contents or navigation table entry. And we used Control, Shift, 8 to show and hide our formatting characters. And that's about all I know. Feel free to post comments in the comment section. My name is Alex Schultz. I teach at Murray State University in the beautiful Murray, Kentucky, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.